Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined as always by Chris the Technician Aceto on this May 15th, 2017 afternoon. And Chris, we are of the New York Pro Week, I guess we can call it, because we're going to have a ton of interviews and content leading up to the one of the biggest shows of the year, run by Steve Weinberger, Bev Francis, out there at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym. And it's, it's got a legacy. You know, it used to be called the Night of Champions years ago, but it changed over to the New York Pro in the early 2000s. And it's just, it's the show where guys try to make a name for themselves and really get noticed. All the top Olympia judges are there. Jim Mannion's there. And this is going to be a great coming out for, I know there's a lot of pro debuts being made here, and there's a lot of talent in this lineup. And we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to review that and preview it. And Chris, you and I will also be doing a New York Pro preview, probably either Monday or Tuesday of this week, video preview, that is. So if anyone wants to catch that, they can check it out on the RxMuscle website. What else before we get started here? I wanted to just bring up something, a very sad note. Let's get this over with because it's very depressing, because I knew him. Doug Jabby. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, it does. He competed. Yep.
Nationals heavyweight guy from Georgia. He was third in the Nationals in 2000, 2001. He was fourth. I believe he was in 2002. I believe he was third. I remember he was competing because I was helping my friend Dave Watson at the time, and I think Dave had just beat him or something like that in one placing. But he was, that was back when the Nationals were really, really tough too. And he was a good bodybuilder. And then he kind of disappeared from the scene. And I know he had some kidney issues. I knew he had some autoimmune diseases. He had sarcoidosis. He had scleroderma. I think he was getting dialysis too, but I don't. No one knows why. I don't really know why he died. They said he died of a heart attack. He was cousins with Mimi Jabby, who's another IFBB pro women's bodybuilder.
Yeah, that's I do know that now. I know Doug Jabby and I know Mimi Jabby.
Yeah. Good people, yeah. And it's 45 years of age. Another guy, in that same age range as us, who. Is not going to be, seeing his 50s and 60s. It's kind of sad in a way. I mean, obviously autoimmune diseases are, who knows what causes them really. I mean, they're probably one of the great unknown factors. I mean, there is a genetic component to it, but I think there's a big environmental component to autoimmune diseases that we just don't know. And that, sometimes, we know that our genes can be turned on and off. And I think there are certain environmental cues out there, whether it be stuff in the environment, pollutants, whatever it is, foods we eat, that just turn the gene on that makes your body go haywire. And we don't know enough about the genome yet where we can actually turn these things off. I think in 50 to 100 years from now, we'll be able to turn genes on and off, and we'll know which ones do what. And it'll be like, your fuse box going off in your house. We'll just reset the fuse, that type of thing. But right now, obviously, we don't have that technology at our fingertips. And, it's sad to hear one of our Iron brothers going down. But if anyone out there knew him, say a prayer for the family, because it's obviously a terrible thing, especially his wife, I know he'd been suffering the last couple of years, so it wasn't like he just suddenly died, but... it's still just as tragic.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
How old again? 45?
45 years old, yeah. 45.
Yeah. Autoimmune. So why do you say environmental? Because that was the first thing that, came up in my mind.
Well, what causes a person's immune system to go haywire? I mean, why? Why would a person's immune system start attacking their own body? There has to be something that turned on a gene in their body, because obviously it wasn't doing that when he was younger. All of a sudden, his immune system decided, hey, I'm gonna start attacking the connective tissue in the body and laying down these amyloid deposits in his body. Why? There's got to be a reason why that happens at a certain point in a person's life, and I believe it's got to be environmental. I believe you put the same person in Sweden, he's not going to get that disease. I just think it is what it is. I don't know. But like I said, we don't know what those environmental cues are. He might have been predisposed genetically, and it might have, he might have farted wrong one day and it turned him on. I don't know. That's the unknown, thing about autoimmune disease. I mean, think about it. Multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease too. It's where your body attacks the myelin sheaths of all the nerve endings. Why does your body do that? I don't know. Is there a genetic component? Yeah, there probably is a little bit, but I don't see like 10 people in the family having, multiple sclerosis. So I don't think anyone in Doug's family had what he had. So what caused him to have that? It had to be something he did, I'm sure the lawmakers in this country would like to say it was the anabolic steroids he took, but there would be a lot more cases of that if that was the case, so. And his kidney failure obviously was caused, or his kidney failing kidneys were caused by also that same autoimmune disease. It wasn't caused by, like I said, bodybuilding or anything like that. So it's like I said, I don't know. Maybe when it's your time, it's your time. I don't get it, but I guess it's one of those great unknowns that we'll never really know, Chris. That's why you have to kind of enjoy life, for what it's worth, because you don't know how long you'll be here. That's why.
Say that again.
Yeah. You don't know.
No, I think Mark Cuban had 3 things. Mark Cuban, owner of from Shark Tank, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, nemesis to our president. Someone on CNBC yesterday asked him, what 3 things would you suggest that new graduates do? Never stop learning, think, of course, outside the box, and 3 is enjoy every minute. Because that enjoyment will facilitate, wanting to take more risks. That enjoyment will facilitate wanting to, quote, do more. And then, of course, the enjoyment is it's a quick life. I think he referenced, I forget how old he is, but he said, I can't believe I'm whatever age he is, 50-something. He said, he felt like, just the other day that he felt like he was in college.
Yeah. Maybe that's that I can even throw my quote of the weekend right now because it kind of fits into that whole what you just said. It's kind of like an if-then statement. You remember in school they teach you logic?
Yes. Do they still teach that?
I don't know if they do. I liked it though. I did well. I was very logical, like Dr. Spock. Mr. Spock.
I was in court yesterday for a case, and my lawyer was being illogical, or my logic was not the same as his logic. So after the case in which we lost, we went into a conference room. I was thinking, he thought he did a great job, and I said, well, technically you did.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there's different lines of logic. And we had this whole discussion on different lines of logic.
Mm-hmm.
So,
of course, he didn't agree with you, but yeah.
No, I mean, he was. I mean, what? Maybe if he won, I would say it was a great logical argument. You knocked it out of the park.
Right. Oh my God! So here's the quote: If this if this time-space reality that we live in has within it the ability to inspire a desire within you, it is an absolute must that this time-space reality has the ability to yield you a full and satisfying manifestation of that same desire. It is law. I'm going to read it again.
The universe is set up to affirm how you think.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you can be inspired to do something, then you must be able to achieve it. Now, if you doubt that fact, you will not achieve it. But if you don't doubt that fact, then you will get what you want. It's the law. It's the way you think is what you get, and there's no two ends about it. You get what you want. I always said this. You get what you want whether you want it or not. That's the problem. Because whatever you think about is what you're going to get. So that to me is very almost like soothing to know that, because if you accept that statement, that if-then logical statement, then you can get whatever you want in life. It's just a matter of how you think about it. And I think the problem is that a lot of people just don't think about things the right way. They think about them in a negative sense, and they just attract the negativity to it. That they're thinking about, what if I don't? What if I can't pay my bill? And as soon as you start thinking like that, that's what you get. That's exactly what you get. You get the inability to pay your bills. You break your leg. Don't think about the things you don't want. Only think about what you do want, and think about it really hard, and dream about it. I've said this before. I used to go to bed at night thinking about looking like Lee Haney or Dorian Yates. Every night I would fantasize. I'm on stage posing, looking like these guys. And this is when I was 200 pounds, not when I was 300 pounds. And eventually I manifested a physique that probably, in my wildest imagination, I never could have imagined being that big or that hard or that freaky. Obviously I was still limited by my own genetic structure, but I put on an enormous, more muscle than any of the people I even was thinking about, So you gotta believe, because when I was a 138-pound runner in college, no one in a million years would have believed that 5 years later I would have been, 300 pounds of a bodybuilder. So I'm telling you, I've experienced it. I know you've experienced it. I'm sure Jay Cutler can attest to that as well. People that are successful will tell you, you have to think about what you want, and that's it, and block out everything else.
Dave, I'm going on Tuesday. I have a homeschool assignment. I'm taking my 13-year-old and me along to go look at a building in which I do not have anywhere near the money to buy. But I'm going to look at it. Right. And my broker, of course, asks no questions, because she's under the assumption if he wants to see it.
He wants it, yeah.
Well, I do want it. I just can't afford it.
Right.
But I don't want to go, I don't want to go look at a 250 square foot, what are those, small homes that people live in?
Yeah, those mobile homes. The mobile homes.
No, the tiny houses.
Oh, the tiny houses, yeah.
I want to go look at something that's astronomical. When you go to bed, you want to imagine yourself posing down with Dorian or Lee Haney, right. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what you aspire to do, and the universe lines up to affirm what you think about.
Yeah.
So I need to go look at it. This is part of my homeschooling lesson to my son, we need to go look at it, because we need to see if we actually like it, and then we got to figure out how to get it. And
in 30 years, your son will be saying, and my dad took me to this building, and I know he wanted it, but he couldn't. My dad just couldn't afford it. Meanwhile,
he might have it,
and he'll be buying it. That's what I'm saying. He'll be buying. He'll be like, my dad, and I knew one day I would buy this building, And your son will be like a Donald Trump, tycoon. He'll be buying buildings in Manhattan, But I went back to Maine to buy this one building because I know my dad wanted it. He just couldn't afford it.
I know a building someone bought once. Gorgeous, office building, large office building, architectural gem built from the 1930s and maintained impeccably up until this day. And the guy who bought it is some real estate guy. And when they asked him why he bought it, he said, because when I came to the town where it's in, or the city that it's in, and I know this guy indirectly. I've talked to him a couple times, met him, and he doesn't listen to the show. And he said, the day that I came to that town, I came on a 10-speed bike, and I saw that building, and I thought, I'm going to own that one day. He bought it, Dave, when he was 70.
Wow, really? That's cool.
He did buy it. He did buy it without a bank loan and bought it cash. But when he came to the town, he was 18 years old.
That's awesome.
So imagine that.
Yeah, no, that's a good story.
So he just felt that it was like an accomplishment, it was something that he wanted from when he was 18 years old. But the idea that, that seed was in his head, and he wasn't thinking negatively about it, but he was thinking positively of, someday I'll get that. I'll get around to it.
Yeah. Well, when I moved, look, I wanted to move last year. My wife and I know my wife wanted to go back to Florida, and her mom lives there, and we had the baby. We had no one helping us really in New York, because my dad is too old. So it was basically us, Amanda and myself. And I said to myself, how are we going to do this, especially if we have another baby? I said, but I have my whole life here. I have 2 houses here. I own a business. What am I going to do? I said, you know what? I am going to move. And I have my dad there. I knew my dad would never leave. I said, everything will work itself out. I believe it. I completely am immersing myself into this process. And little by little, between selling off 16 fish tanks, selling 2 houses. She had to sell her house in Florida, buying another house in Florida that's big enough for us to accomplish what we want to do here, moving everything, 1,500, whatever it is, 1,000 miles. I mean, it was just an enormous, enormous thing. And, we get down to Florida, and then we have to, of course, start building out our offices here. And the one, I guess, chink in the chain, so to speak, was my dad. What am I getting? And I can't see my dad. I feel guilty, but I know I'm going to get my dad down to Florida somehow. So my dad, had this, we talked about last week, he had this incident where he lit a fire in the house. And so I said to him, look, Dad, I flew up last weekend, and I said, Dad, you can't live here anymore. It's not safe. I said, I know you like this house because you grew up, we've been living there for 45 years, whatever it is, but it doesn't serve anything. I said, don't you want to move to Florida? I said, you got your grandkid there. We got a new one on the way. And I talked him into it. Now, I knew that he wasn't going to remember me talking him into it, so I had to keep reminding him every day. And as of this weekend, I'm coming back with him. I'm bringing him, after the New York Pro, on Sunday, I'm bringing him down to Florida. And I found him an awesome place, assisted living place that Amanda has done physical therapy in. It's like a country club. It's brand new. And he's going to be down here in Florida. And I never, when I started the process last year around this time, I would have said, there's no way, and my dad would have said, there's no way he's going to Florida, And now, granted, I haven't actually gotten through the process of getting him on the airplane and everything like that and getting him down here. But I believe that I really see the reality that he's going to be here. And that was the last thing that was not in place. So, you got to just believe it. You'll make it happen. I promise you guys. Don't even think about how it's going to get done, because you'll never in a million years be able to conceptualize the process. Things just line up. The universe lines up for you and allows you to do what you want to do. All right, that's enough spirituality. Let's talk about the New York Pro, Chris, because this is the big show. You'll be there. I'll be there. We got Johnny coming in. We got our photographer there. It's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. Because we haven't really, aside from, I guess we haven't really seen each other since the Arnold, so this will be another big show we'll be covering. And this is great because there's a lot of pro debuts being made. Sergio Oliva Jr. making the pro debut. We had the interview with him this past week. I know a lot of people really enjoyed it. He's a really interesting person to interview. He's kind of like a Cedric in a way, with his own little style. And I like that he's hungry. He doesn't have a contract right now, so he's looking to make a statement here, I guess you could say, in New York. And we know a lot of guys have made statements in New York before. We saw Big Ramy make a huge statement here. Kevin Levrone back in the day. All the great bodybuilders have done the New York Pro and have made names for themselves. So Sergio Oliva Jr. in this lineup. Akeem Williams coming from the, I guess, Kuwait. I think he's in town now, or he might, either that or he's getting in any day. And he's back from Oxygen Gym and the Camel Crew there. We'll see what he looks like. Juan Morel jumping in this lineup. Maybe the guy who's done the most shows this year for certain. At least the most top quality shows, that is. John De La Rosa in the lineup. The guy you're helping from England, Sas Harati, making his pro debut. So we got a very, very dangerous lineup here. We have, obviously some other guys that are making pro debuts as well in the lineup that I don't even know. I'll read those in a little bit. But of the guys we mentioned, Chris, who do you think is the guy to beat in this lineup here? If you had to make an educated guess. I think I lost you. Chris?
Akeem, I'm yelling. I'm yelling. Akeem,
I wasn't hearing anything from you.
Oh, I would say Akeem, and I base that on multiple things. One, he won convincingly Tampa last year. Two, he didn't win Chicago or Baltimore, but he could have easily won Baltimore.
Right.
I thought he was crazy looking in Baltimore. Three, he looked great at the Olympia, and that's the Olympia, so it's meaning hard to get a good look with that top six in there.
Right.
So you could argue that he was overlooked. Technically, he could have came into that show with 2 wins. He came in with 1 win. The next argument for Hakeem winning is that he's got tons of mass. The next argument is that he's been in Kuwait doing nothing but eating, sleeping, and training over there. So he's got to have that type of momentum coming into the show. It's got to count for something. 4, he's got 5 or whatever. Unlike the lineups that we've seen lately, some lineups, right? He's got quads.
Yeah, he definitely has legs. I'll give him that.
I see him doing those sideways I'm just kidding. He gets those legs from doing squats, not from doing one-legged side leg press.
Yeah. My only concern with Hakeem Williams is, will he be hard enough from behind? And that, I obviously worked with him his whole career, and when he went to Oxygen Gym, I said, look, if you're going to go there and you're going to be trained by them, do it 100%. I don't want to. I'm not going to be like a sideline coach. I'll obviously always root for you because and we're friends, but you let them do your diet and everything like that, because you're in one place over there. If you don't like the experience, we'll change it next time. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I know it's very hard to get him into shape the last little bit. His back and his glute hamstrings, just barely come in. You got to torture the crap out of him. So I don't know if they understand that over there, that they have to torture the crap out of him. So I don't know how he looks. I haven't seen an update picture. I will get one probably this week from him, I'm sure, once he gets into New York. But I haven't seen the back double bicep yet. That to me is the defining pose, because if that's in, no one's beating him because he's got too much muscle for these other guys. Juan's got a better upper body probably, but Juan doesn't have the legs that Hakeem Williams does. But Juan does get harder, so But then again, Juan has also competed in the Arnold, the New Zealand Pro, Brazil, South Africa. You mentioned last week traveling has to play a part in
I made the point traveling plays a part on bigger bodies than it does on smaller bodies.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it does.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
I don't know if it's like the fullness issue or full flat, whereas somebody who's 5'4" and 200 pounds, their weight does not fluctuate as somebody who's like 6'1" and 278.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure one can wake up from a flight and say, I'm 268, whereas a guy who's 5'3", 200 can say, I'm 198, drop 2.
True. And when you look at I'm surprised I don't see Michael Lockett in this lineup. Now,
me too.
Steve Weinberger sent me the list, but he said it's not complete, so we might see. Lockett's he's always a last minute add-on.
How about Johnny?
Johnny Jackson. Yeah, I think Johnny's shutting it down after that big win at the Arnold, and he'll just finish off the Olympia, and then he's retired. So he's almost at the end. He's at the end of his career. These guys are just beginning. Sergio Oliva Jr., how will he do? Obviously, you're helping him. I've seen pictures of him. He looks pretty good. How will he fare in this lineup?
Got to see him in the lineup. Not going to be the biggest guy, not going to be the hardest guy. That's just like when he was at the Nationals, Yeah. At the Nationals, he wasn't, quote, the biggest. The biggest was Rashid.
Yeah.
Right? And the hardest was Eddie Bracamontes.
Yep.
What was helping? And so it came down to, well, it came down to Eddie and Sergio, but if you remember, Rashid came back the next day looking like Coleman, and I was like, God, let's end this show quick, please.
Yeah.
Let's not rejudge this. I didn't want any rejudging going on. Talk about biased people. We talked on the TV show the other day about biased gurus, and I said I'm extremely biased.
Yeah.
So,
say that,
but I'm not dumb. Just to review that a little bit, because it was funny is. Sergio was in the show. Eddie Bracamontes was in the show. They were 1-2, and you were helping Rashid, who was, I think, third
or fourth
somehow. And I thought that Rashid was going to be third or fourth in prejudge, and the finals, Rashid the next day came out, and he looked like a Junior Coleman. That's not an exaggeration. He looked like a Kimmich, right?
Yeah,
gigantic and hard as nails. And I was like, boy, let's get this show over with. Let's get this show over. Let's get this show. Let's not do the comparisons at night, which I don't think they did. They did the routines, then they did the trophies, and you could see in the lineup, if they had rejudged that,
it would have been a different story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Sergio has, one of the things that he's got very good for him is that he knows how to win, and he's very charismatic up on stage, and your eyes kind of get drawn to him because he hits very unconventional poses a la Kai Green, and he's got his own little personality up there. He does splits on stage. I mean, and he's a big guy. Big guys don't usually do that, so I like his energy on stage. I enjoy watching him up there, and to me, sometimes that's half the battle right there, getting the judges to want to look at you, and they want to look at you. They might say, well, he could be bigger or he could be this, but you know what? They're looking at him, and I think that that's important. A lot of these guys stand up there like mamalukes, like they don't even want to be there, with a frown on their face. So obviously, John De La Rosa, always dangerous in this lineup as well. Not the tallest guy in the lineup, but obviously packs a lot of mass on his body. Also, I see in the lineup a couple new guys. Well, let's talk about Sassarati, who you're helping from the UK. Another unbelievable talent. Maybe not the biggest guy up there, but gets ridiculously hard and shredded. Can this guy be a surprise dark horse in this lineup?
I think that he's not the biggest guy, and he would tell you that. He's not small, but if and that's my expectations, everything pans out this week, he will be Eduardo Correa at his best type conditioning. Mm-hmm. I think, and that counts for something. Meaning you got to be in a mix.
He might be the hardest guy in the lineup. From a conditioning standpoint. When I look at these other guys, all the guys, the top guys, are guys that always have problems getting hard enough. It seems like, and John De La Rosa, Akeem, Sergio, but Juan usually is in pretty good shape. But Sass is his conditioning is like next level almost.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny is he has a body that if you don't torture him into shape, it's not going to get into shape.
Yeah.
It's weird because people probably see him and say, "Oh, he must have a hard time because he's consistently in shape. Oh, he must be have an easy time getting in shape," and it's been difficult. Actually, this has been the hardest prep for him ever because going from point A to C or A to D has been. I know he looks great, but getting there has not been easy. And I've been pulling my hair out, and he has no hair, so I guess he pulled his hair all out already.
Right. Now, the open class is got about 12 guys in it right now. So, and there's some good quality. Obviously, we're going to have whoever wins is going to be it's going to be a big deal. But the 212 class is brutally competitive. I mean, you read the lineup. There's it's crazy. How many guys? There's 20 something guys in this lineup right now. 21 as of today, and there's a tremendous amount of talent. Milan Shadik, who just won and beat a very good Nicholas Vuliat and Craig Richardson at that Charlotte Pro, is in this lineup. Who I have to believe is the favorite here. Craig Richardson, obviously in the lineup, also very close second to him in Charlotte. You got Ronnie Raquel, who's a top 10 Mr. Olympia Open guy, who's coming into the lineup. He had a great year last year as well. Sean Clarita, who's this, the giant killer in this lineup for certain, at 5'0", but with maybe the best shape in the lineup. We got pro debuts by Kane Bishop. We have a lot of pro debuts I see in this lineup. Marco Rivera's in the lineup. David Robinson from Hawaii, who we know. One of your clients, Sammy Trouty from the United Arab Emirates.
Three guys on the show.
Another freak of nature that people are finally going to get to see, on a pro stage. I mean, this is a dangerous lineup, Chris. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to predict who's going to win this lineup because it's so dangerous, and there's so many unknown factors in it. If you didn't know Trouty, we would never even be talking about him. But I mean, I've seen the pictures of him. This guy could come in here and steal the show.
Yeah, it is going to come down to it's going to come down to how they do the call-outs, because everybody, I'll make the argument for Guy's won the show twice. He's in tremendous condition. He looks fantastic.
I don't see him in the lineup here. Is he?
He's there. Yeah, he's in it.
I didn't see him on the list.
So Guy's in it. You got the guy who won Charlotte, who's got a bigger frame than everybody. That's his. Plus, he's in great condition. Plus, he's got great separation.
Yeah.
Very clean lines, but he's a big. He looks like an open guy in terms of width, which is really dangerous with 212 guys, because, when you don't look 212 on your frame, even if you don't have enough muscle, which he does have enough muscle,
right,
then it's a stark contrast to the other guys in the lineup. You got Craig, who, was at his best in Charlotte and probably going to be better here. Just every single guy you can talk. Samir's good, very, very, very good. But it's like how they mix them. Clarita's very, very, very good. Marco's very, very good. Mix them up in the lineup. This guy in the center, this guy on one side, this guy on the other. It comes down to details, and I don't mean like details in terms of conditioning, because those guys are probably 212. They're all going to be in great condition.
Right.
I guess who has the weaknesses compared to the others.
The least weaknesses, yeah. I see one of the guys in the lineup is from North Korea, Nam Woo Cho. We've never seen him before. I'm surprised Donald Trump let him into the country.
From North Korea?
Yeah.
Maybe. You know what, Dave? Great interview, man. A great interview for you.
Yeah.
I think you should pull him aside before the show and find out, one, how he got here, and two, what he thinks of the political climate.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think it would be a really good interview, assuming he speaks English. Assuming he speaks English. So yeah, and this guy, the Korean bodybuilders that we've seen in the last couple of years come out of nowhere have all been top 5 guys. So who knows how this guy will look on stage? So that's an exciting lineup. And then you would think we're done with the men, but we're not, because we have a classic physique lineup that might be better than the open and the 212.
Yeah.
When I look at Breon Ansley, I see Lee Banks. Let me look through this lineup here.
Let me just stop you there. Yeah. Those two right off you're too deep.
Yeah.
2 guys deep, and those are 2 phenomenal physiques.
Let me throw George Peterson into the mix, who's making his pro debut after winning the Nationals.
George Peterson's full of shit. George Peterson is a 212 guy, maybe an open guy, parading around with different posing trunks.
Yeah, I don't know how he makes the weight.
Meaning, he's a phenomenal bodybuilder, classic or non-classic. That goes for Lee Banks as well, obviously, and the first guy that you mentioned. These guys are phenomenal bodybuilders, and I'm excited to see that class.
Right. We'll have to talk.
It's amazing. You've thrown out 3 names, Dave, and the way I conceptualize those 3 are like perfect for the class. But it also changes my mindset of, I didn't really know what Classic was about technically last year, coming into what they're going to be looking for. They're obviously going to be looking for, with those 3, packed, hard, ripped, round muscle.
Yeah.
So it's going to redefine that 3 right there, and there's more in the class, is going to redefine how we think about classic physique going forward. Because we're not into S shapes anymore. We're just, those are pure bodybuilders in every sense of the word.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't think that George Peterson will ever be a classic physique guy after this year. I think next year he'll be a 212 guy. I told my friend Justin Miller, who does his diet, I said, Justin, this guy, at 200 pounds, he's unbelievable. He's got to make 187 or something like that. He's really, sucking down very, very low beyond what he needs to. He will be a very dominant 212 bodybuilder, I believe, if he wants to be. But obviously this year he's going to stay in this classic. He won the Nationals last year at Classic. He'll be making his pro debut here. I think he'll be very tough to beat in this lineup. He's got one of the best backs I've seen in bodybuilding, period. His legs can be a little bigger, but he's got the crazy conditioning, striated glutes, even though you're not going to see you won't see them in the shorts that they wear. But just crazy conditioning. And I think that he'll be very, very difficult to beat. in the lineup because of the detail and the fresh muscle he's got. But Breon Ansley is really the guy I think that's going to be very dangerous and will probably pose the most trouble for George Peterson in this lineup. I think Lee Banks will certainly be in that top 3, but I think that Breon Ansley is the wild card fact. I haven't seen pictures of him really too much, but he's got some wild muscle as well. So that's going to be a great battle in the classic physique lineup. Obviously, we have men's physique as well. That's going to be taking place. George Brown, who's won this show twice before, but he's going to be facing Raymond Edwards, who just beat him the other day in Pittsburgh. And Andre Ferguson, who's another guy that I would have probably picked as the winner of this show, but he lost to Raymond Edwards also last week or 2 weeks ago in Pittsburgh. And I just interviewed Raymond Edwards for the radio show, for the TV show, I should say, for Live With. So if you guys want to catch that interview, I really didn't know much about him, and really good guy. He's one of the, he's taller than George Brown. He's taller than all these guys, so he really sticks out. How much advantage do you think that height plays in men's physique, Chris? Because especially when you have that V taper and you're taller than the other guys, do you think that's an advantage?
I think it's a disadvantage.
You do in men's
it's
physique?
Weird. Yeah. Oh, men's physique.
Men's physique. I'm talking.
Men's physique. I think height, because you're not, height is an advantage, because if it was a bodybuilding show and you're doing frontal biceps and side chest and side tri, things that pop out more on a shorter guy negate someone with height. So because, if you have two equal guys, let's say they're brothers, identical twins, one's 6'4", they have the exact same physique, and one's, 5'8", and they're in the same condition, they're the same person essentially, you're going to go with the guy who's taller. Yeah.
Brandon Hendrickson in this lineup as well. He's the last year's Arnold Classic champ. I mean, this is a super deep lineup of men's physique guys. I mean, I would hate to judge this. Chase Savoy in the lineup. There's guys here that are not going to place top 5 that could win any men's physique pro show anywhere else other than this show. This is almost an Olympia lineup, minus Jeremy Buendia. So I think we're going to see some. If people like to watch men's physique, or you want to see the best guys in the world, you're going to see them here. So I'm pretty excited. It's a lot of guys, like almost 30 guys in the lineup. So Steve Weinberg really attracted a good crowd.
Dude. I mean, come on, it's a hardcore bodybuilding weekend. You know what I mean? There's going to be there's a lot of muscle.
We got pro figure, we got pro bikini also this weekend. So. I mean, we have it all. We have pro women's physique, where I see Shanique Grant, who won last year, will be back to defend that title. I'm sure she'll be even crazier than she was last year. I see Alti Batista, who used to be a figure pro. She used to date Ronnie Coleman. She's doing women's physique. That'll be interesting. I always thought she had a lot of muscle in her body. I thought that might be a good switch for her. It'd be interesting to see how she does.
Got to get her an interview with, update on what she's been doing.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great weekend. I mean, we have a lot planned, obviously. They moved the venue this year. It's not in Teaneck, New Jersey. It's going to be held at the White Plains or Westchester County Center there in White Plains, right in the center of White Plains. The heart of White Plains. I have to go see my good friend Dr. Blau, who lives right there. He has a luxury. I should take you over to his place. He's got they have these luxury condos they built in the middle of town there. White Plains is very expensive to live in now. It's almost like New York City. And Dr. Blau has a crazy, crazy apartment there, right down the block. Might have to.
I'll take my son into a homeschool experiment.
Yeah, do a
whatever. Not field trip, not experiment. Field trips.
That's right. He'll love it. So. It'll be a nice weekend. It'll be cool to be hanging out with you for the day, and then maybe you could help me bring my dad down to Florida afterwards. That could be a homeschool trip for your son. Forget about it. Yeah. Nothing would be better than that. You know what? If I had a film crew with me filming like the Kardashians do, it would blow away any Kardashian episode anywhere, anytime. Guaranteed. My dad going through the airport and going onto the plane. I got him a first class ticket on the way back. I mean, it's only one. It's not the way back. It's one way for him. He's not getting a return ticket. He's going one way. And because I figured, there's no way he's going to sit in those coach seats. I want him to be served wine, and meals. Yeah. My dad's probably never. I don't think my dad's ever flown business or first class in his life.
It.
So
he will love it. He can't tell him he can't light up. This is not the olden days. He can't light up in the.
No, there's no more lighting up with my dad anymore. It's funny. My dad has a friend he taught with for like 30 years. His friend Ted Heyman, and I went up when I was at my dad's house last weekend. Ted just happened to show up, and Ted is very funny. He's a very, very funny guy, and he likes to break my father's balls, and he could get away with it because my dad knows him for 100 years. And he's like, Sal, you got a light? He kept asking him because you got a light because my dad lit the fire in the house. Mm-hmm. And even my father was laughing, even though my father probably didn't even know what he was referring to because he probably didn't remember. But it was pretty funny. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, guys. When we come back, we got more to talk about. We're going to do some Ask Chris Aceto questions because you guys have been submitting them to me. And if you have more questions for him, you can send them to my email at huge285@aol.com, and I will read them on the air. The guy who bought you the Derek, who bought you the headset, and who wants to buy you a new chair and new clothing.
No, I have a new chair. Tell him I have a new chair.
Oh, you do have a new chair? Yeah, I've noticed I haven't heard any squeaking. Yeah, so that's probably what it is. Derek, we have a new chair. He sent a bunch of questions, and so when we get back, I'll ask you those. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent pending andro compounds. The most effective, hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. Iron Mag Labs. Revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. Dave Palumbo talking with the technician, Chris Aceto, on this lovely day. And I've noticed that the weather in the northwest, or northeast, I should say, has been cold. I kind of am immune to that because it's 85 degrees here every day. But what's going on up there? You guys are having an extra winter there?
I don't know. It's reverse global warming.
Yeah.
You know what, Dave? We had the warmest February.
I know.
I
was kind of getting mad. I got to be honest with you. I was like, "Fuck, man! These guys are getting a warm winter. I just moved out of there. I want to be able to brag to them. Hey, I'm in 80 degrees, and you guys are freezing your ass off, and you weren't. But then you're getting it now. So
yeah. And I looked at the weather report for tomorrow. 46 degrees.
Wow. Yeah. I don't miss that. But I'll be up there this weekend. So hopefully it'll warm up a little bit for the weekend. There was I love these crazy, insane things that some people do in life, and so I don't think you sent me. One of our listeners sent me this link. One of these poker pros. You watch these poker things on TV?
No.
I don't have the patience. I don't even watch TV anymore, to be honest with you, because I don't have time.
Well, I always ask you, how did you have time?
Yeah,
I don't even have time. I don't even have time to like. Yesterday I took my son to like track practice and it was canceled. I wanted to kill the track coach that like somehow I'm privileged enough and that he should be texting me that he had an emergency because just
that's funny.
I said I could have been doing something.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a poker pro. His name is Mike Norrie. A lot of people know him. He was challenged by another one of these poker guys, Dan Blazarian. He's another very well-known poker player. He challenged him to $1,000 bet. No, excuse me. I think it's higher than that. It's a $200,000 worth of action. 5-1 odds he's giving him on that he can't eat $1,000 worth of McDonald's in 36 hours.
$1,000 worth of McDonald's. How much is the bet? How much is the bet?
$200,000 on the line.
Okay, is it too late to get Juan and Kai entered in there?
My wife was saying to me, she goes, I don't think you can even do that. I said, in my heyday, I definitely could have. It would have been tough. Now, there's some rules. Let me look at these rules here. Nori is getting 5-1 odds on his money, so because people are saying that there's 5-1 chance that he can't do it. Many have called the challenge impossible, estimating that he will have to consume about 70,000 calories in less than 2 days. Kai could do it. Yeah, you're right. There are rules.
Well, for $200,000.
There are rules to the hazardous proposition. None of the $1,000 budget can be used for drinks, and only $200 can be spent on salads. Drugs are also off the table. No drugs being used for this, so no, you can't. I don't know how they think that's going to help it.
You can't get the munchies.
Yeah, like any eating contest, Nori must keep the food down, so he can't throw it up. Can't go into the bathroom and chuck it up, Chuck. According to Nori, his plan is to start with $500 worth of apple pies. He has this guy Nori has won $400,000 in lifetime tournament earnings. The largest score of his career came last summer in a event in which he finished fourth for $74,000. Blender is no blenders are allowed. You can't blend the food either.
When is the competition? When is he doing this?
I'm not sure.
I wonder if he's going to feel flat still after that cheat day.
Yeah. Some observers suggested flying to Scandinavia, where a McDonald's burger is much more expensive than in the U.S. So that's why the Arizona location has already been set. Okay. Interesting.
Is McDonald's sponsoring this? Are they aware of it?
They should. You would think so. This would be great.
They may I don't know, maybe they want to issue a lawsuit. They can't use the lawyer I used yesterday because we'll lose. He's illogical.
My strategy would be to eat the Angus burgers, because the Angus burgers are pretty expensive. I don't even know what they're going for these days, but they're probably about $3 something. I would just Angus burger it until I couldn't stand any more Angus burgers. Then I would go to the apple pies, because the apple pies are too cheap. That's the problem. That's why I think they have another apple something or another that's a little more expensive there. But I don't even know why anyone would want it. They said you have to limit the salads to only $200. I wouldn't even eat any salads, because unless the salads will just make you full, and they're empty calories. I would go for. I guess they figured people would eat the salads because it gives them a break from chewing on the burgers. But I would probably, when I got sick of the burgers and the apple pies, I would probably then go to the chicken, chicken McNuggets and stuff like that, because those go down pretty easy. I think I could do it. I think I could easily do it. I think I could easily do it.
Maybe you need to do a consultation with him before, like the day before.
Yeah, because I am a McDonald's expert, from all the years of eating.
How are they going to drug test? Is none of these like peptides, the peptides that people tell me about? Because people always ask people about peptides. I'm embarrassed. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, the GHRP6 makes you very hungry, yeah.
Maybe.
What would Milos' solution to the problem be? How would he?
I'd coach him and he'd deplete him first.
No, he'd insulin him.
No, I know. Wait a minute. He'd deplete him first so that the energy reserves it's like a gas tank. Once on my boat, Dave, my gas tank was so empty. I pulled up and it was hot, and I was in Florida. It's like 20 years ago, and I pumped the gas, and the gas hit the bottom of the tank and came flying right back up.
No way, because it was so hot.
It blinded me. I literally, you know what I did? I dove immediately into the ocean.
Oh, you actually got scalded with it?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, it was gross. My mouth, nose, eyes. So maybe Milos would deplete him first.
Right.
Maybe keep put him in ketosis, check his ketone levels, and then he'd probably load him up on insulin right before he starts.
The pre-eating insulin. What about intra-insulin usage? I mean, he might incorporate that. That might be a new technique,
Milos, we're not making fun of you. You know why we're celebrating you? Because I told you, right, when you said, I'm getting Milos on, I said, well, you're going to have 4 parts, because 1, he has a lot to say.
Yeah.
2, he's done so much. And 3, not only does he have a lot to say, but he can go off on tangents. You could talk about leucine, and he could speak 4 hours on it.
Yeah. I have a former client that has sent me like a whole bunch of questions to ask me. I have to get him back on now, just the questions are so good. that I didn't even think of them. So, and I'm sure if you and I sat down, we could think of some Milos stories, like where he competed in certain things. Where
you need the TMZ Milos interview, because Milos has been around everyone since day one, and Milos talks a lot and he listens a lot, and people talk to him a lot, and everyone who's been on that tour with him has at some time said, "Hey Milos, what do you think of this? Hey Milos, what do you think of that?" So in other words, he knows what people have done, and he knows all the funny NASA stories, LeBron stories.
Yeah, I want to hear the NASA stories.
Ronnie Coleman came to me. Flex, he knows all the Flex stories, the Sean Ray stories. He probably has Bleckman stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know?
No one put Milos down more than Bleckman, believe me. Over the years, I don't even know if Milos is aware of that. Because when I worked there, Bleckman, Milos with that insulin, you know. I'm like, well, it works, you know. It's just every time someone didn't look good, one of his clients, Milos with the insulin. Milos with the insulin. Oh my God, Milos is a great character. I definitely want to get him on the back on the TV show. He's matter of fact, I could do a weekly TV show with him. He's probably so good. You know, I know he's so good. I could do it because he could talk forever, and he could talk about anything. I don't know if you ever knew he was doing some kind of like movie or something like that set, and he was set on fire. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that he got caught up. I remember that. I don't know the details, but I just remember hearing Milos was doing a movie and something
The reason
happened.
I remember this is because when I was going through my federal case in San Diego, I was down there with Rick Collins, and Rick's like, "Oh, Milos is going to meet us for sushi." And so Milos, I hadn't seen him in years. Milos met us, and his face was like all red. And I'm like, "Ray, what happened to your face?" He goes, and then he told me the story. He goes, "I almost got my face burnt off." It actually looked like he got a good chemical peel. I think it took about 10 years off his look of his skin. He was lucky that he survived it, but yeah, Milos is a character. I like I said, I truly enjoy talking to Milos, even if I don't agree with everything he says. You don't have to. I mean, that's the great thing about Milos. He'll debate you for hours, you know, and it's never anything personal. And me too, I'm the same way. So that's why it's great to interview him, because I can argue with him, and then you know we're still friends afterwards. Whereas most of these guys, if you disagree with anything they say or you critique them, they put you on their hate list. They want to beat you up, you know.
Yeah, I should have had him as my lawyer yesterday.
Yeah. Milos, that won't lose a case, that's for sure. That is for sure. All right, let me look and see what we got here for Ask the Technician questions. I know we got a bunch of them, a few of them at least. Please ask Chris to share a good Mike or Ray Mentzer story. You too, Dave, if you have one.
I was out in California when Mike was there, and Mike had kind of, mentally he was not all there at that point. So Mike was a legend, and, he used to hang out in the gym, and, he was, looked physically nothing like Mike Mentzer.
You remember he had his hair, he had this like bushy hair, and it looked like he always just woke up.
Yeah,
but he was if you remember, he was making a lot of money then, because that's when he was that's when Dorian was winning the Olympia, and he was talking about his heavy duty. People were paying him for phone consults. He was the man there.
Well, he would go through Gold's Venice, and he would have contingencies come from Japan, and he'd put him through his workout. And what I just never got, and there's always exceptions to the rule because it worked for Dorian. I didn't understand that people would come in and they would say, "Okay, we're going to do chest today," and they'd do one set and they'd say, "Okay, done."
yeah, that was the Mentzer workout.
And it just didn't trend. We started the show talking about logic and illogic. I understand all the none principles. Right? Either muscle fibers are engaged or they're not engaged. But I also understand, the beauty of repetition and the results of repetition. So he was coaching bodybuilders too, who that system did not work for, period. I spoke to someone yesterday on the phone, and, we were talking about diet and training, and he was trying to pin me down on what I think about diet and training and this and that. And I said, it's hard to, don't take it the wrong way, but it's hard to know what to think, because I think that people respond to different type of diets for sure. And even the same person may not respond to the same diet now that he was responding to 5 weeks ago. So
right.
There's a lot of variables within how the body responds to diets. And there's clearly a lot of variables to how the body responds to training. Dorian Yates, it's a fact that he responded to that type of training. So the Mike Mentzer stories is just that he was in the gym at that time, and there was always a disconnect. I could never wrap my mind around somebody coming in and saying, "Okay, Dave, ready to do legs? We're doing squats today, and we're going all out." And you do one set, and you say, "Okay, we'll see you tomorrow."
It was a great gimmick, because he really didn't have to spend a lot of time with people, and people were paying him big money for it. And the results were good. I knew a lot of guys out there that were going out to California to actually train with Mentzer to learn the technique. I said, well, do you really need to go train with him? It doesn't seem like it's a very difficult concept. He's been writing about it, and all the magazines had articles about Mentzer's heavy-duty training, and Dorian talked about it all the time. And I kind of picked up the principles. I didn't do the 1 or 2 sets. I did more than that, but I certainly cut my volume back tremendously in my training, and it worked for me. It definitely worked. But I will say this: it didn't work if you had no muscle. You had to be able to activate them. In other words, you had to have a good mind-muscle connection, which means you had to have a lot of muscle to begin with to really do the technique and get anything out of it. Skinny guys that would do it would get nothing out of it, because they just couldn't connect with the muscle and they couldn't activate the fibers enough. So it worked well for seasoned guys, who might have been prone to overtraining like I was, because I had such a fast metabolism. Other guys didn't do well with it because they like to go through the repetition of doing 20 sets, to really feel the muscle. But I think, like you said, certain people it worked really good for them. I was one of those guys. All right, next question. Chris, this is from Derek. Chris, he has like a whole list of questions. Number 1, have you started How Not to Die, the book I gave you by Dr. Michael Greger? Well, he couldn't have started yet because I haven't sent it to him yet.
I was going to say, no, I just finished this book though. Let me recommend it. It's a pretty good book.
Okay.
Because it was recommended by someone who I respect. Unshakable: Your Financial Freedom Playbook by Tony Robbins. It's a good read. Anyways, book I recommend since I just read it.
Well, so I have to send you the book How Not to Die. It's
I'm alive here for the 1 millionth RxMuscle radio show, so
I think we're closing in on the 500th show. To be honest with you, I got to count, because we've been doing this over 9 years now, or 9 years. So we're definitely in the 450s somewhere. So number 2, has anyone been in the Mafia?
Is Derek worried I'm about dying, or
what?
Is he worried that I'm dying, or
no?
How not to die ever, or how to die at a
how not
age?
To die ever? It's like any disease
Ever.
in there, they give you like a natural cure for it.
Go ahead.
I'll read through it next week. We'll explore it on the air. All right. Number 2, has anyone been in the Mafia or affiliated with the Mafia that competed in bodybuilding back in your competition days, Chris? Also, did the Mafia ever have a take or extortion control of any shows or judging?
Oh, great question. I thought he was going to say any Mafia in my family, because the answer is distant relatives, yes. Because there was some people who robbed banks throughout the country, and they were from Maine, and their last name was Aceto. When I was a kid. Yeah, when I was a kid. So, it was kind of like, oh, Aceto. People were like, oh, which Aceto are you? Mafia. Remember, I told you, I ran into, and I put him on my Instagram account, the Sid Limits, the picture of Sid, me and Sid Limits. Me and my son ran into him at Harvard last week, 2 weeks ago.
The photographer.
And for some reason, Dave, I'll tell you off the air. I'll tell you off the air the guy's name. But there was a bodybuilder that Bob Gruskin used to work with, and I always wondered, what happened to this teen? He should have been the Jay Cutler. What happened to this teen? He should have been the Phil Heath.
Right.
And Bob used to work with him. And I thought of this guy over the years, and I even remembered with a pre-Alzheimer's brain, the guy, I've always remembered his name. So somehow I run into Sid Limits. He brings up like immediately, did you ever work with it? Did you ever know so-and-so?
Right.
And I said, no, whatever happened to him? He said, well, he was getting ready to do the East Coast. He would have won it. He was like 18 or 19. And the feds came arrested him because he was from a Mafia family. And that's what.
Wow.
That's the end of his,
Interesting.
and I had always asked Bob, like, what happened to so-and-so? And Bob says, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Bob's the ultimate excuse maker for all those guys. Yeah.
No, he just said, no, he's not around.
Like if Bob had worked with Craig Tyson, he would have been like, oh, he had a bed, yeah, she was, yeah. And he would have like hemmed and hawed about it, like.
Yeah.
He really it wasn't involved,
I do know someone who competed in the show. I don't even know. I might get fear for retribution, Dave. This is. I don't know if I know the truth hurts, but this one is putting myself at risk. He competed in a show, and it was not in the United States, Dave. So this absolves the NPC, and the judges were. It was made known to the judges that this guy competing in the show had to win, right. And the judges, or else. And this is not the Boy Scouts told them or else. And my friend, this guy, this is not in the U.S., showed me the pictures, and it'd be like the equivalent of, let's say, who won the Arnold this past one? Johnny Jackson standing next to some guy from Texas who's gonna do, try to win the Texas show this year, and Johnny Jackson loses.
That's funny.
That is a true story.
What country did that occur in?
I don't even want to say that.
All right.
That's how I'll tell you, Dave. You know why? Because it was. There were threats. I'll tell you, Dave, off the air. There were threats.
All right.
And, there was not like, hey, we'll rough you up. This guy had to win. And you know what?
And he won.
The threats were so grave. I mean, it was like 20 years ago, but the threats were so grave that they said, okay, you're winning.
That's crazy. Third question. Chris, has anyone ever been successful in bodybuilding and been an alcoholic, regular alcoholic drinker like Kevin Lumber, aside from Kevin Levrone, he said?
Well, I was thinking of Kevin.
Yeah, he said besides Kevin.
How you define what alcoholism is, but, I mean, Milos would tell you, right?
Well, I mean, do you know any guys you work with who would have drinks, regularly? Not that he was not there with alcoholics, but like to drink.
No, I don't think anyone could pull off what Kevin did, which was, drink regularly on a tour.
Yeah.
And demolish people in shows.
Yeah, I agree.
Testament to his genetics.
What's your favorite movie, Chris, and why?
You know what? It's very cliche-ish, and I know why it's my favorite movie. The Rocky movie is.
Me too. It's my favorite.
And I say that because you are always continually moved by that movie.
Every time I watch it.
I'm just not someone who can get moved by a lot of things. You know what I mean? I'm not emotionally pushed by. My buttons aren't pushed. I mean, you can be moved, but. I saw that movie again like years after originally seeing it and thinking, it had to be like 15 years and thinking, no wonder why this was fantastic. And I thought, every bodybuilder in prep should make this mandatory viewing.
Absolutely. Well, we all don't want to be just another bum from the neighborhood. That was the line that got me. I cry every time I hear it. Because right? We all want to be something. We just don't want to be another bum from the neighborhood, Yeah. And that's what Rocky was.
And just to add to that, the idea that the genius of Sylvester Stallone taking that movie, and I know the details of how he eventually got it made, but starring in it when he wasn't supposed to star in it, nobody wanted to finance it. He gets it done. It's a crazy blockbuster. It's a one-time event, but he follows it up with Rocky 2 and 3, which were tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous movies. I mean, when Clubber Lang came on the scene, right? This is pre-internet, pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook. People are like, oh my gosh. What a character.
Well, he also had Hulk Hogan in that movie, too.
That's right.
Who no one knew really that much about. The genius was that, they offered Stallone $1 million for the screenplay because they knew it was a good screenplay. I think they were going to have Burt Reynolds play Rocky. He goes,
that's right, Burt Reynolds.
He goes, I am not selling this unless I am playing the part. And they're like, then we're not making the movie, you know. And it almost didn't get made because of that. I mean, and you got to remember, Stallone had no money, zero money at the time. He was broke, and they offered him $1 million, and he said no. That's how much. Talk about, you know, we talked about in the beginning of the show, you know, thinking about something, be passionate about something, and having an unerring belief that you're going to succeed. I mean, that was Stallone. I mean, because they could have just said, yeah, fuck you. Who do you think you are? And that would have been the end of it. And he could have lost $1 million. Most people would have sold it for $1 million.
Maybe then, you know, if he did that, you know, maybe I should just, I don't know, on Tuesday's field trip when bring my checkbook and
yeah, bring your checkbook.
You know, can I put a down payment on this? Or
can I give you a 10 grand?
I just watched the Rocky movie and listened to Dave Palumbo's radio show. Can I give you $5 grand as a down payment?
Next question, Chris. What music did you listen to when you worked out?
Whatever was playing at the gym, because we didn't have. Dude, I'm not 20 years old.
Do you have any musical preference?
We had the Walkman. Do you know what a Walkman is?
Yeah, I remember. Do you have any musical preference though?
No, my musical taste all over the place.
Me too. Yeah, I'm not really
all over the place. It depends on what type of mood I'm in. But because my wife will always say, "How can you say you like this music?" I'll be somewhere and say, "I love this music." I said, well, I don't need to go out and buy it and play it in my office every day to love it.
Yeah. Chris, have you ever had to tell someone to give up bodybuilding because they're just not taking it seriously enough, or that they don't have the genetics to be successful?
No, I've never told people they don't have the genetics to be successful. But I have told people that their understanding of what dedication is and what someone else's dedication level is are different, or their level of dedication, what my expectation of their level of dedication is different. That's the lawyerly, logical way.
Wow. Chris, what are some of your secret pleasures? Example, you eat McDonald's once a month by yourself, but don't tell anyone.
Oh my gosh, this guy's like a stalker, man. He wants me to live for forever. I love cigars.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and that's probably my little weird hide-it pet peeve.
Okay. Not
pet peeve, little weird thing that you would catch me doing by myself, because I got to hide it, right, for my kids.
Right. You don't want to be a bad example.
I can't keep any in my house because I don't want my, going through my office or something and my bedroom and saying, "Oh, what are those?" Because it's, I don't want them.
You don't want them smoking.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, who would be your ideal president?
That's hard to say because I don't know the duties of the president, right?
I always I say Vince McMahon.
Well, you know what? It's because it's being the president. Making public policy is a very wonky, weird stuff to do. I've done it. I've not done it, but I've sat on like committees and communities where they're trying to figure out, trash policies or business policies, and people have very different opinions. And even though I disagree with people's opinions, like a lot of times, which is very often, and I express mine, a lot of times I'll say, I'm thinking they got a great point. So where is the meeting of the middle? And that's what politics is about. And that's what governing is about. Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, meeting in the middle. You have to consider everybody, which is different than running a business where you can just drop the hatchet and say, this is the way we're going to do it.
So who's your ideal president?
Well, I don't know who the people are.
You can't just pick someone out.
Donald Trump is not my ideal president, dude.
Okay? We know that. Yeah.
So, it's.
What do you think? You think Wayne Dyer would have been a good president? Like a guy who's very spiritual like that, or do you have to be like a cutthroat guy?
No, you have to have the ability to be cutthroat. Not cutthroat. You have to be able to make a decision and live with it. In retrospect, even knowing it was a poor decision, because nobody can make all the perfect decisions all the time. Right. That's a fact.
Yep.
And you got to be a great listener, because you got to be able to take a ton of collective, information and find out what's best for the, for the greater good for everybody. You know, that's why when people say Republican, a Democrat, I fall somewhere in the middle. I'm very right wing on some things, or to the right, and on other things I'm to the left. And some days, you know, depends on what mood I'm in. You know, I'm not far. You know, I think. You know, I'm critical of Democratic ideals, and I'm critical of Republican ideals.
All right, last question.
I've thought of running for public office, and then I realized it's not for me.
You'd be miserable.
And I think I could win, but I don't think I could govern. You know, I don't think I could. I think I would. You know what I mean? I think.
Well, you'd rise to the occasion. You would rise to the occasion, I think.
I think that, and I'd have to quit the radio show and bodybuilding and going down immediately.
You got to find a very liberal state to run in, though. That's the only problem. But then you're conservative in certain things too. But I don't know. I don't think I would want to serve because I wouldn't want the responsibility.
I don't like Donald Trump, and I say this. I said this before the election. I said on the show he's going to win.
You did.
And I don't like him, but he's still my president. Yes, he's the president of the United States. And really, truly, I hope he's, you know, all the craziness. I say that 100% genuinely. I super hope the administration is successful because, you know, if he's successful,
we're successful.
That's right. I was going to say Dave Palumbo is. Everybody is successful. But, you know what, people are going to. The problem is, you know, how do you define success? And people will always, and they always have from day one in this country, or the last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, slip through the cracks. So we're going to always have problems.
Yeah. You
know, and it is unfair to focus on only problems and say, well, when Trump was in, or when Obama was in, or that's what I dislike. When Bush was in, we had these problems.
Last question, Chris. Who is your favorite Mr. Olympia of all time?
You know, I would say Arnold, only because he was the trailblazer. I mean, I don't know where bodybuilding would actually be without Arnold. You know, you could say now would we have the Arnold Classics? You know. Think about what he did in Pump and Iron. I mean, if Rocky had an effect on people as bodybuilders, I mean, shit, that's another movie I forgot about. You watch Pump and Iron, and the guy was a mega superstar, even though he wasn't at the time. And he was saying superstar things, even though he wasn't a superstar. Nobody really knew bodybuilding, knew who he was. You know, he won multiple times. He had, to this day, right, tiny, you know, great big taper. People don't have those type of pecs really like he had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This day and age, he had the delts, he had the big biceps, great back development. You know, he was number one on the stage and number one off the stage. And also, I understand completely that when people's lives change and when they, you know, done with bodybuilding. A lot of people, they're just done with it. It was like not a phase, but, you know, they move on to other things, family, business, whatever it may be, or they stick around bodybuilding. Arnold must really, really still love bodybuilding to be able to continue to promote it the way he's promoting it.
He does. It's obvious.
That says a lot about him.
It goes back full circle to our quote of the week. I mean, no one thought about success more than Arnold did, and no one believed that they could achieve success more than Arnold did. And look at the amazing success that he has achieved. It's a law. The universe has to give you what you think about and what your desires are. Remember that note. Remember that certainty, because I know a lot of people out there have a lot of doubt in their mind, and a lot of people are unhappy with their lives, and you can change that. Just change the way you think. And on that note, it's going to take us to the end of another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.